Today, social listening isn't just about monitoring conversations. It's about uncovering actionable insights that can shape the trajectory of an organization. From identifying emerging cultural trends to driving product innovation and refining marketing strategies, social listening provides a unique window into the voice of the consumer. It's not just a tool for the social media team. It's a powerful resource that spans across departments, creating opportunities to stay ahead of market shifts and delivering greater value to consumers. That's a quote from Frank Gregory and a sneak peek at today's episode. Hi there, I'm Kerry Curran, Fractional Chief Growth Officer, Industry Analyst, and host of Revenue Boost, a marketing podcast, where we discuss smart strategies that drive revenue growth. In today's episode, titled The Power of Consumer Conversations, Turning Social Data into Dollars, I sat down with my friend and former teammate, Frank Gregory. He's the head of social intelligence at Nestlé USA. He's leading some amazing research over at Nestlé, and I'm super excited to share it with you today. From fast-moving cultural trends to slow-brewing consumer shifts, Frank shares real-world examples of how Nestlé uses social data to uncover opportunities, stay ahead of competitors, and connect more meaningfully with audiences. Whether it's creating new products inspired by emerging trends or fine-tuning marketing campaigns with hyper-relevant data, this episode is packed with actionable insights on leveraging social intelligence to turn data into dollars. Let's go. So welcome, Frank. Please introduce yourself and share your background and expertise.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kerry. It's great to be on, and thank you for having me. So I'm Frank Gregory. I lead social intelligence for Nestlé USA. And so what that means is everything related to social listening, but also broader social research and any insights that can be gleaned from social media conversation. My background, I've been in the marketing space for my entire career, a little over 15 years. I started off in more of a kind of brand strategy role and kind of pivoted more and more into social and digital as I saw the world shifting more and more in that way, and just kind of fell in love with social listening. The original days of Twitter, and that was about it at first, and then expanding into how do we incorporate Instagram, how do we incorporate Reddit, and all the different emerging channels over the years, and really seeing the capability become more and more sophisticated, not just what are people saying, what's the volume, and maybe what's the sentiment, but really get into like who are these audiences, and what can we learn from different influencers that are out there, et cetera. So I've really been excited to kind of be on this journey of an ever-changing world of social media research.
Awesome. No, excellent, Frank. And I know you and I worked together way back when social agencies were still kind of new-ish, organic social, and getting more strategic with paid social back. The M80 turned Group M team.
Yeah.
So it's always good to catch up with you. And so I know in my experience, like I love customer data, research data, like insights that help you get smarter about your target consumer, the purchase journey, pain points, everything. And getting that data directly from the consumer in a more free form of social listening versus surveys to me is so fascinating. So talk a bit how you've seen kind of social listening and the value of this data just evolve over time.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that in the early days of social listening, and this is still the case in some organizations, it really was seen as just a tool that helped to inform the social team that was putting together content on the brand's different channels, and maybe some social strategy work that would weave into a marketing plan, right?
Right. Yeah.
But that was about it. And I think that was because of the fact that it was called social media listening. The word social was in it. So
Hmm.
organizations thought, oh, it sits within the social team, it informs the social team. And what we're seeing now more and more is how a lot of more innovative organizations are leading the charge on taking the social listening function and applying it to many other aspects of the organization.
Hmm.
And so a great example with of why I was so excited about the opportunity with Nestle is that I don't sit within the social strategy and community team. I sit within CMI, the Consumer Marketplace Insights team. And so I'm working with the tried and true traditional survey and focus group style of market researchers, and what I'm doing is I'm giving them a complementary set of insights on what's
Hmm.
going on in social that you might not be able to find in a survey or a focus group. And it also gives me the ability to even broaden further into having the innovation team be one of my core stakeholders. Product innovation, R&D is one of my core stakeholders. The even looking at corp com and different food scientists are reaching out asking what are people saying about new flavors and new varieties and things like that. And so it expands the scope of the value of the data simply by redefining it as, yes, it's social media listening, but it's not just for the social team. There
Yeah.
are large, really important, significant value adds that
Hmm.
social conversation analysis can provide to an organization. You just have to kind of think outside the box of what social media listening is.
Yeah, well, and the key aspect of that is listening. Like you're listening in on the conversation between, unaided conversation about your brand, your product, your category on the different social platforms. So I think it's so smart and so must be so insight rich as well.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that even when I was, before Nestle, when I was more in the agency side, at M80 and Group M, and then even, when I was on the consulting side, when I would approach different, market researchers, sometimes they would kind of see me as, okay, is this a threat to me?
Yeah.
I'm in the survey and focus group and product testing
Hmm.
world, and
My
is this a
panel
threat?
data. Yeah.
Right, exactly. What is this social listening guy talking about?
Mhm.
But the way that I would always make sure to kind of show that this is complementary is that I did a lot of kind of traditional
Mhm.
traditional survey research at the beginning of my career, and ultimately, uh, social listening is a great way to complement that work.
Yeah.
So if you're about to go out and do focus groups or surveys around general population, you can use social listening to get a good understanding of some of the things that are going on in conversation to validate, is that just something that's happening in the social space, or is this a bigger consumer
Mhm.
perception around our brand or our category, or a competitor that we need to really pay attention to from a gen pop perspective. On the same time, if you've just done a piece of research, surveys, focus groups, product testing, whatever it might be, and maybe you did a focus group and you heard three people in one market say something very interesting, you can validate that by looking in social listening and seeing, is this a bigger conversation that's happening across the world, across the U.S., et cetera, or is it just three or four people in one market, right? So it's a great way to
Mhm.
complement, and by no means a replacement. Because the
Right.
other piece that I always mentioned to those market researchers that kind of saw me as a bit of a threat is like, unless we get to the point where there at some point in the future where every single person across every demographic, every geographic location, etc., is equally posting on social media about every single topic they can think of, then social listening is never going to be representative of the entire general population. There's always going to
Mhm.
be a part of the population that just doesn't post, right?
Yeah.
They're not as active, and so it's a complement, right? You
Yeah.
need both. You can't rely solely on social listening, you also can't ignore what's going on social. And so you need that balance and the complementary services.
This episode of Revenue Boost, a marketing podcast, is brought to you by Kriglu. Want to boost customer acquisition while saving time and money? Meet Kriglu, an AI-powered omnichannel bid management platform designed to optimize your ad spend. Kriglu intelligently adjusts bids across channels, ensuring your ads reach the right audience at the lowest cost. Plus, with its automation, you'll free up valuable time to focus on your business. The result? Efficient, cost-effective growth, all while maximizing your marketing budget. Ready to scale smarter and faster? Visit Kriglu.com, Kriglo.com, and start saving today.
Yeah.
So talk a bit about how the different business units, you mentioned a few, and audiences within Nestle are using the social insights that you're generating.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, I sit within CMI. So like my core, like first primary stakeholder group was the CMI researchers, right? To get them trained up and understanding the value of social listening. I would say a very close second to them is the social strategy and community teams that are obviously looking for as much social insight as possible into different audiences, into different cultural trends, et cetera. But then out within the marketing organization overall, you've then got marketing innovation teams that are looking for what are the latest flavors and varieties that might turn into a new product on shelves for whether it be Stouffer's or DiGiorno, or whether it be a new coffee creamer flavor for Coffee Mate, et cetera. They're looking for those kind of insights around new product innovations. And then you've got teams like R&D that are looking at just broader cultural trends and what's going on in the food and beverage space in general. And they're looking for, is there a whole new brand or a whole new category that Nestle could be going into, right? And that's where you really get into those broader topics. And then I think the one piece that also was really great about the fact that I sit within CMI, kind of bringing it full circle, is that around the same time that I was starting about 2 years ago and building out the social intelligence capability within CMI, there also was a counterpart of mine who was building out a brand new foresight capability. And that foresight capability really is looking at, okay, 3 to 5 years down the line, how is culture shifting? How are consumer perceptions shifting? Not just within food and bev, but just in general. People are talking more about nostalgia, and people are thinking about healthy aging, and people are thinking about these different fitness trends and things like that. And how does that fit into a potential food and beverage application that could then turn into a product on shelves? Right. And so it's been great to actually kind of partner with my counterpart within CMI. And now, I mean, just a couple of days ago, in the kind of the end of the year recap, our CMI leadership was saying, they weren't saying the foresight team and the social intelligence team. They were saying foresight plus social intel. And now they're calling it the foresight ecosystem that is fed by social intel and all this stuff. So we're connecting those dots and becoming more and more in lockstep, because they really should be working together, and they're not two different siloed capabilities.
It's so brilliant. And I know I've worked with CPG brands and food brands in the past where we would kind of try to convince them of consumer trends we were seeing, whether it was like video trends or search volume trends or regional search increases, and they weren't always receptive. So it's so smart, and I love that Nestle is embracing this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And just to that point, some of the tools also, if you haven't really touched a social listening tool in a few years, you might
Mhm.
be missing out on some of the new innovative tools that are out there that are complementing social listening
Mhm.
tools. There are now emerging trend prediction tools that are actually, to your point about search, combining search data and social data to be able to tell you
So
the bigger
smart.
picture, right?
Mhm.
And then going even further into who are the audiences that are talking about these cultural trends, et cetera. So yeah,
Yeah.
the more the tools are becoming more sophisticated, and therefore the applications are becoming more sophisticated.
Yeah, it's so smart. And so one of the things that you had educated me on was, and you touch on this a little bit, but insights can be kind of that fast culture, respond things that the brands could respond to quickly. But then, you talked a bit about slow culture movement. So can you dive into a bit more to examples of fast culture and slow culture as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say that a great example of fast culture. Just a couple of weeks ago, you saw kind of one of our competitors, Kraft, was in the was trending on social for the wrong reasons because of there were no sauce packets in the mac and cheese, and so that one negative consumer experience turned into this whole trend of people talking about mac and cheese, and specifically the sauce and the mac and cheese. And she also was she was looking for more healthy options with mac and cheese. And so we were able to actually jump into that fast culture trend and surprise and delight her with product, not just for Stouffer's mac and cheese, but also more broadly some of the other healthy options within the Nestle portfolio and the frozen meals division. And so with that was a great just example of fast culture,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Um, at the same time, slow culture, I would say, are more things like GLP-1 weight loss drugs, for example,
Mhm.
right? That started a trend about a year and a half ago. And so you started to see different, fitness influencers talking about, these new, Ozempic and Manjaro and all the other GLP-1 weight loss drugs, and how it was benefiting them. But you hadn't seen celebrities talk about it yet, right? And so
Mhm.
it was still kind of just emerging, right? But once it became more in the mainstream, it became this kind of slower culture movement over the course of the next 6 to 12 months. And because we were listening when it first emerged, we were able to say, okay, do we need to start tracking this? Because this might be an opportunity or a risk, right? Depending on how
Mhm.
you look at it.
Mhm.
So we needed
Yep.
to start tracking it immediately. If we hadn't been kind of thinking about those broad cultural trends of, we've got queries running that are looking at healthy aging and fitness and all this other stuff, always on within our tools. And so because of that, we were able to catch it right away. And therefore that turned into executive level brainstorms around, okay, what does this mean for our portfolio? That led us to actual product on shelves with now Nestle coming out with Vital Pursuit, which is a whole new brand and product line around frozen meals that help to complement the GLP-1 weight loss drug consumer experience and their weight loss journey. And so we were the first to market within our category because of the
Mhm.
fact that we were the first to see it, right, before it exploded and became mainstream. That's just one example. There are plenty of other kind of examples of where fast culture moves into slow culture. You're thinking about girl dinner. Why
Yeah.
did that trend and resonate so well? Well, we caught it at the beginning, but then we were able to feed it to that foresight team who was able to
Mhm.
say, okay, well, what's the why there? Like, what's the change in consumer behavior and consumer perception that could turn into products on shelves in the future. So a couple of examples, but there's a lot of them, and we're always on a weekly basis looking at what's trending in the broader cultural space that could have a implication for the food and bev space.
Yeah, definitely. So, pickles, I feel like are trending these days. Are you seeing, like, all of a sudden it's a pickle martini, it's a pickle like loaf, it's a pickle. Are you seeing, like, is Nestle going to jump on that trend at all?
I couldn't tell you whether or not they're going to jump on it, but what I will say is
Yeah.
I think that the beverage division and
Hmm.
specifically Coffee Mate is a great example of
Hmm.
a division that they're always hungry for those types of moments
Yeah.
because when you think about all the different coffee concoctions that are trending
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
TikTok and on social media in
Or
general, being
espresso
able
martinis. They could do a espresso martini
exactly,
flavor. I hope that's
exactly.
coming out.
Yep, and you even look at like I mean now Coffee Mate has Cocktail Mate that is now being tested,
Oh,
right?
wow.
And
Okay.
so just
Hmm.
kind of thinking about like where else can coffee creamers
Hmm.
start to play, and I think back to about 6 months ago where the dirty soda trend, which was soda with coffee creamer, that had been trending, and then that
Yeah.
turned
Yep.
into a Coffee Mate partnership with Dr. Pepper, and
Oh, cool.
so yeah, I mean it's who knows? Maybe there'll be a pickle flavored something or other
As long as it's not pickle flavored coffee mate, but you never know. That's I shouldn't impose my personal opinions on. That'd be a good April Fool's
exactly,
flavor.
exactly.
So, anyway, no, so we can't have an episode about data and intelligence without talking about AI. So, can you talk about how you've seen AI tools really democratize access to social listening, and how you're leveraging it, and it's just helping make you even smarter?
Absolutely. Yeah, AI is something that AI innovation is something I'm thinking about on a daily basis. Right.
Hmm.
A couple things. One, just when we were going through the process of kind of assessing a lot of different tools, just in that 6 to 12 month period where we were assessing a
Hmm.
bunch of different tools, things were changing so fast. All of a sudden, a new one tool provider said like, "Hey, well now we're leveraging AI to do this," and then a week later, another tool comes out with a new feature, and it changed the calculus of our scorecards on a very
Yeah.
very
Hmm.
frequent basis, which was great and kept us on our toes. But where we landed is that there's a few different applications. One is that for anyone who's ever worked within a social listening tool and had to write a query, well, you have to know Boolean logic and do all this kind of stuff. Well, now the AI can help actually just write it for you, right? Or at least
Hmm.
get about 75% there, which is
Hmm.
great. That's one aspect. Another thing is that from the end user experience perspective, to democratize the data, we now have the ability that every dashboard that we create for any of our brands, any of our product categories, cultural trends,
Hmm.
etc., they all have AI summaries. Um, uh, they all have AI summaries that are a little text box on the top of each dashboard that just summarize what's going on in that specific topic on social media during that week or that month, with whatever. And then at the same time, we have a emailed PDF version of those dashboards that show up in the inbox of hundreds of stakeholders on a weekly basis. And that email body copy also has an AI generated summary. And so if you only have 30 seconds as a brand manager before going into your meeting, you can very
Hmm.
quickly just see the summary of what's going on social, even if you never actually click into the dashboard that I created for you to look at the charts and graphs and word clouds. It's fine as long as you're reading that AI summary. You're getting the high level, and then we can dive in
Hmm.
deeper when you have time. So that's another aspect. And then I would say one of the biggest game changers is there are now capabilities within these tools to actually have kind of queryless social listening. And so
Hmm.
a great example is where, we have our always on core topics that the tangible topics that we know we need to be listening for, our
Hmm.
brands, our competitors, any mention of pizza or chocolate or coffee, etc. But then when you're talking about some of the broader topics I was mentioning earlier, like healthy aging or
Hmm.
nostalgia, things like that, um, a regular social listening tool is going to need the keywords that
Hmm.
are defining what that query is. Now you're starting to see the AI be smart enough where I can type in nostalgia or I can type in healthy aging, and it will look at the tangentially relevant conversations that might not
Hmm.
specifically mention that keyword or phrase, but it knows, it's smart enough to know that anything around like a fitness trend or anything around a kind of an old school trend of whatever video game or whatever book series or movie is related to nostalgia, right? And so you're
Yeah.
starting to see the tools become even smarter, where we can listen to what we call like listening to the unknown, right?
Hmm.
There's
Yeah.
no, a great example would be Girl Dinner. There would be no way
Hmm.
that we would have known before it happened that
Yeah.
Girl Dinner was going to be trending. So we wouldn't have had a query around Girl Dinner.
Hmm.
But because we were listening to broader food and beverage topics, we were able, and snacking and those types of topics, it was able to pull it in through the AI. It knew that Girl Dinner was a trend related to snacking, and therefore it popped up in our tools. So it's
Yeah.
going to continue to get better and better over time, and I'm really excited for just so many more applications of AI in the future.
This is no, it's brilliant. And no, I'm learning so much. So thank you, Frank. Are there any other tools that you recommend to people that marketers that want to kind of tap into more social insights?
Yeah, absolutely. So the way that I look at it, I kind of there's social listening, and then there's broader social intelligence. And so
Hmm.
to break that down, within the core social listening space, I like to call it the traditional social listening space at this point. The ones that are really doing a great job leveraging the AI and innovating. Talkwalker
Hmm.
is doing a great job. Meltwater is doing a great job with it. I would say you're starting to see some new entries in the market like UScan, and then you're also seeing another big player like Quid that's really doing a great job with leveraging the AI. Um,
Hmm.
but on top of your core social listening tool, you also have to think about the rest of the social intelligence stack. Nichefire is the tool I was just describing that doesn't need the query. It just will give you a topic and tell you through the AI what's tangentially relevant in an emerging trend. So Nichefire is a one we use in complement to our Talkwalker tool. We also are looking at ratings and reviews listening, which is really
Hmm.
important. It's
Yeah.
not social, but it's tangentially related to social. And
Hmm.
so, we are leveraging, a tool called Yogi. We are also, there's also a lot of other great tools in the marketplace, like a tool called Reviews. A generic name for a ratings and reviews listening tool, but Revuze.
Okay.
Um, so that's another tool that's doing a great job. And then I guess the last core one that we use as a tool, that's looking at social audience personas. And again, generic name. The tool is called Audience. They're from the UK, and so it's audience with an SE at the end instead of a CE. But audience is it actually integrates with Talkwalker, and therefore, if Talkwalker is able to tell us this is what people are saying about a topic, in one click, I can then go to audience and say, give me a persona in aggregate of who these people are, right?
Hmm.
So we're able to tell our stakeholders, people who talk about frozen pizza, well, they also over-index for they like PlayStation more than Xbox.
Yeah.
They follow NBA more than NFL. They follow these specific celebrities, right? They
Hmm.
also talk about cooking and hiking and all these other things, right? And so you're getting more of a persona of who these people are on social media, not just the fact that they mentioned frozen pizza one time, right?
Yeah.
So that's another fantastic one that really is changing the game. And then we also leverage for influencer analysis. We leverage Creator IQ.
Mhm.
which is really important. And then we do also, because our social team publishes through Sprinkler, we are also leveraging the owned content performance through Sprinkler. So we've got it's taken a couple of years, but we built out kind of best
The
in class.
full stack.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That's
Yeah.
so valuable, Frank. Thank you so much.
Sure.
So you've given us so much information and so many valuable ways that we can get smarter about audiences and customers. So for a brand or marketer that's listening to you and they're not doing this at all, what's a good kind of first step to take getting into this?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that the first step is to think about your goals for what types of insights you would love to see, ideal state from social,
Hmm.
and just like list out, talk to your stakeholders across your organization and list out, I wish that social told me this. I wish that
Hmm.
social told me this. I wish I could grab this insight and that insight. And once you get into kind of categorizing what those different buckets are that are important to you, which is going to be
Hmm.
different for every organization, that's when I would say create kind of your scorecard of the most important priorities that you're looking for and go out and talk to the core social listening tools, like some of the ones I mentioned, but also talk to the emerging trend tools and the audience tools, et cetera. But, I think it's really important to have that kind of framework up front of your goals and priorities first,
Yep.
um, because ultimately, depending on what your budget is, you might. I mean, I'm blessed in that we've got a relatively large budget for this at Nestle USA because we're a larger organization. But if you don't have that same budget, it doesn't mean that you can't leverage these tools. It's just, depending on what type of package you get, right? You might not need to have thousands of queries like I have. You might only need 10 or 15 really strong queries in there for different topics. So I would look at it from the standpoint of goals first, and
Hmm.
then think about, of all the tools that you talk to in demo, which one is going to hit on the most important of those goals, and maybe 7 out of 10 of your goals. Start there, and then start to provide those use cases and case studies to your organization of, hey, through this tool that we now implemented, we were able to learn X, Y, and Z. Now, we
Hmm.
still can't answer every question that's going on in social because we don't have the full stack, but we can
Yep.
answer 7 out of 10 of these questions with this tool, and that might start, getting the leadership teams thinking, well, maybe we do need to add another tool to that stack. And slowly over time, the more that you show the value, the more you can continue to build out, a more comprehensive stack. But start small, start with goals, and then show value and go from there.
So smart, Frank. Thank you so much. So before we let you go, how can people find you?
Yeah, best way to find me is on LinkedIn. I'm definitely, very active on LinkedIn. I try to answer messages as much as possible. But yeah, just Frank Gregory on LinkedIn. I'm also very active in the Social Intelligence Lab community. So if you want to learn more about not just the tools but all the capabilities and use cases, I highly recommend looking into the Social Intelligence Lab, and all the great events that they do. I join those all the time, and a lot of my colleagues and peers do as well.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Frank. Always good to catch up with you, and I always learn something from you. So, thank you so much for sharing all of your examples and your expertise. Hopefully, we can have you back again.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. It's great to catch up, and I really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. I hope you found this episode of Revenue Boost, a marketing podcast, as valuable as I did. Frank's data and research has such a huge impact on informing both business and product strategy. If you found this helpful, be sure to subscribe to Revenue Boost, a marketing podcast, for more expert advice on smarter marketing strategies. We can be found in all the top podcast directories. And please connect with me, Kerry Curran, on LinkedIn or at revenuebasedmarketing.com where I share more expert advice and past podcast episodes. If your revenue needs a boost, ask me about my consulting and fractional chief growth officer services. Thank you.